Central bankers have caused a massive disconnect between reality and the fraud they have created. Reality was never really prominent in the financial system as far back in the pages of history we have read, but it has never been anywhere near the madness we face today. Negative interest rates are the new policy which has been completely unsuccessful so far, so it's obvious that the remaining central banks will surely take on the policy as well, using the propaganda system known as the mainstream media, projecting the message that everything is just fine and now is a great time to take your soma and lie down in bed. Sleep tight. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we will talk about the Fed not being able to raise interest rates. Let's get into it right away. We're talking about the stock market right now. U.S. stocks reversed early losses on Tuesday at the S&P and the Dow. Guess what? Rising to their highest close of 2016 after the Federal Reserve, Janet Yellen, emphasized a cautious approach to normalizing monetary policy in light of fears about the domestic and international economy. Now, if you read this paragraph closely, it doesn't make sense. Arguably one of the most important people in the financial industry, the whole globe, this is possibly the most important person, talks about having a cautious approach to normalizing monetary policy because of the fear of the situation both domestically within the US as well as global fears. And the stock market rises. Does that make sense? Look at any economics textbook. Look at any classical economics book. And that does not make sense. In her midday speech to the Economic Club of New York, Yellen said it was too early to tell if recent pickup in inflation would last and that the Fed is needed to proceed cautiously on raising the benchmark interest rates given global risks. So there are risks, stock market goes up. Doesn't really make a single ounce of sense. Of course, it's reaction, and this is the way this works. This is what I've always talked about, that they use this tool, which is nothing more than their words. I've been harping on this for how long now, and I actually showed you the mainstream media news articles saying that it's actually a tool. Their words are in fact a tool. All right, Janet Yellen said it's appropriate for the U.S. central bankers to proceed cautiously in raising interest rates because the global economy presents heightened risks. I consider it appropriate for the committee to proceed cautiously in adjusting the policy. This caution is especially warranted because, with the federal funds rate so low, the FOMC's ability to use conventional monetary policy to respond to economic disturbances is asymmetric. All right, so what does she say here? That they really messed up big time, bringing interest rates down to this territory. And so trying to bring it up is not going to have the same reaction that it would if interest rates were at a normal level. So let me explain that quickly. If we had interest rates at 5%, and they brought that up to, 10%, they could say that we expect for these certain actions to take place. Let's say, these are just examples. Okay, housing prices will go down, and so will the stock market. And so that's the expected outcome of that. And obviously, if they decrease interest rates, there's an expected outcome as well. But because they brought interest rates down to this level, nothing makes sense. Janet Yellen uses the word asymmetric, but take it from me, this is the way I've been explaining this for years, and that is asymmetric simply just means nothing makes sense. Let's move on. I believe this is Das I'm quoting here, but Several of the world's central banks have crossed the Rubicon, commencing a high-risk experiment with negative interest rates. The intent is clear: reduce debt by confiscation and transfer wealth from the savers to the borrowers. This is ultimately the admission of defeat, as traditional means of bringing excessive debt under control have failed. I completely agree with him on this statement. Now, just a couple points. They're all going negative now. It seems the ECB deposit rate minus 0.4, Switzerland minus 0.75, Sweden 0.35, Japan 0.1. So these are, it's not just something that they've talked about. Now we have actual documentation that these countries are doing it. And in fact, 26 trillion of the government bonds now trade at yields below 1%. That's essentially nothing. And then you have 7 trillion currently yielding less than 0%. Imagine that. We have $7 trillion of so-called investments trading, knowing that when they mature, they're going to get less than what they put in. That is the value of money these days. In my book, I quote Alan Greenspan in the chapter on central banks, where he said, the United States can pay any debt it has because we can always print money to do that. And the reason I mention this is because I'm showing you the arrogance of this system of central banking, that they believe that they can do whatever they want and get away with it. Look at what happened with the audit of the Federal Reserve. This is the arrogance. They printed $16 trillion. They didn't tell anybody about it, which is one problem. But even when they got caught, they never even put it on their books. And that's what I'm talking about. They have lawlessness. All right, look at this. Corporate business, profits before tax. Profits have always been increasing here, according to this corporate business. This is out of the St. Louis Fed. Except for, obviously the crashes, we can see it go up and up. Look how intense this rise has been. At the same time, though, you have something like the civilian labor force participation rate over the same time declining. So how do you increase profitability? Well, you simply fire a lot of people and make other people do their jobs. They have to work longer hours. If they don't like it, well, quite frankly, there's the door. Corporate profits are never going to go down other than for short periods of time. They'll do whatever it takes, robotics and automation being one that will in fact displace a lot of jobs, whether we like it or not. That's the way it's going. And this is, to change gears here for a second. We're looking at this German journalist and editor Udo Ulf Kott says he was forced to publish the works of intelligence agents under his own name, adding the non-compliance ran the risk of being fired. He made the revelations during interviews with RT and Russia Insider. Now, we don't know how true this is, but I certainly do believe the story he's telling. I don't know about him specifically. I'm not going to vouch for that. I ended up publishing articles under my own name written by the agents of the CIA and other intelligence services, especially the German Secret Service, he told the Russia Insider. He made similar comments on RT in an exclusive interview at the beginning of October. This is actually a little while back. And, he goes on basically to talk about the propaganda that he had to output to the world. Now, like I said, I don't know if he's telling the truth here, but we've all seen this information. We've all seen what Amber Lyons talked about on CNN and others as well. We know the fact that this whole system, the reason why we have a mainstream media, for the most part, the reason why they're so big and they have all these big studios and they really want to look prominent and everything, is because they are propaganda. You think you're getting information, but you're getting propaganda. Whenever they mention certain individuals, they tack on certain words or terms. So they might refer to me, for example, and they would say conspiracy theorist David Quintieri, and then continue on with the article. Or they may say the discredited David Quintieri made a claim yesterday, so on and so on. And that's the way they do that. They just tack that word on, and every time it gets quoted, it just basically gets pushed out into the mainstream media with that word beside it. There may be absolutely no truth to that, but that's just the way they do this. And they have been so successful. They don't even have to lie about the actual information, but they just tack on a word or two, and it gets thrown out there with every other organization basically spitting out the same garbage. This is interesting here. A Chinese newspaper editor said he is resigning in protest of tighter controls in the media, according to a posting on a social media account, a rare rebuke to China's communist leader. I would highly recommend that this person leave the country immediately. Doesn't seem to end well for individuals that do this kind of thing in China. At least that's what we can say. But I have to say I'm proud that this individual is willing to speak up, speak the truth. Self-driving robots deliver food to your door after the founders of Skype launch new tech company. We're looking at this in London, taking groceries to people in under 30 minutes. What I also found funny was if you look at the bottom here in this video, meet the quote, well-behaved robot who delivers to your doorstep. That's right, well-behaved. We have something to worry about the robots, although I really do believe that there is much good to come out of them. I need to bring out the other side of it, because the mainstream media, they're going to bring out the good side. They're going to bring all the happiness and rainbows and everything else. But I have to show you the possible dangers. This is going to replace jobs. It already has in some cases. I've shown you that. And people will say, just get another job. Get a job that won't be replaced by a robot. Well, quite frankly, robots are going to replace a lot of jobs. It's not just a small sector being replaced. And this I thought was really interesting. I wanted to show you this, and I'm not going to have my opinion on it, but out of the Washington Examiner, thousands of Cubans rushing the U.S. border in record numbers are being greeted with a welcome wagon operation that provides them with taxpayer-funded benefits, including cash, Social Security card, food stamps, Medicaid, according to a review of the latest immigration crisis on the border. Really, I find it very strange that this is happening, that they're just handing them. There's no process of documentation or anything. It's just, if you come across the border, you get cash, Social Security, food stamps, Medicaid. Is that the way that they're running this policy? Really? Is this really happening? I mean, I've been seeing a lot of this going on. A lot of individuals come over, perhaps they don't have the documentation, and they work and they do so slowly, but I've never heard of them just literally being handed to them at the border. I mean, this is ridiculous. How can the country simply go ahead and have a policy like this? Are they refugees? Is that the reason? Is that what's happening? I'm not really clear on this. There hasn't been a public statement on this. I find it very interesting, to say the least. Anyway, I'd like to know your opinions on it as well. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. Last but not least, if you found the video informative, I know you'll find my book, The Money GPS, even more informative. If you want to look through it, head over to Amazon. They have a look inside feature, which will allow you to flip through the pages of the book and see if you like it. Take care.